Hey, welcome back, guys. I'm going to apologize in advance if my microphone falls over. The clip broke on it, and I got it propped up between my body and the pillow. So I do apologize if I have to pause, and I apologize. It's been a while since I've read this, so my my reading rust is going to have to be knocked off. So if I stutter or mispronounce words or get too far ahead of myself, hey, remember that's part of my anxiety. Um, so, yeah, I don't read at a fifth grade level, but anyway, here we go. Chapter 9. Why would I want to do more when I'm already doing so well at nothing? Now, we all remember Victor. Victor is Jenny's husband. Victor and I have different ideas about what we should do in our spare time. In my spare time, I like to stare at shit. I mean, not literally. I like to stare at the TV or the internet or a book or cat videos. There's a lot of sitting, very well not moving, involved. I suspect in a former life I was probably a statue because I'm profoundly good at it. Victor, on the other hand, spends his spare time creating new businesses, writing reference books, gleefully finding errors on financial forms, and telling me how I should spend my spare time. In Victor's type A world, there should be no spare time. His motto is time to lean, time to clean, except replace lean with sleep and replace clean with build a multinational business and pull everything out of the closet with the intention of organizing it but not actually follow through and just leave it for your wife to sort out. My motto has always been time enjoyed is never wasted, except replace enjoyed with drunk and never wasted with never not a good idea. Wow, that was a mouthful. I think it's something to do with the fields we work in. For most of our marriage, Victor has been a workaholic entrepreneur or an executive of successful companies. He really enjoys it, which makes him dangerously questionable or at least mildly sociopathic. He easily fills company time with specific tasks that he has defined start ha, that specific tasks that have a defined start and end. His emails are always quick answered and smart and often vaguely condescending derivatives directives actually, excuse me, that make people want to never email him again. So he's always caught up with correspondence. My unopened emails often number into thousands, and once every few months I panic at how far behind I am and send a letter to inform everyone that reads, "Hello, I totally suck. I'm just now opening this. Do you still need me? I'm sorry. I am not trusted. Hugs, me." Then I declare email bankruptcy, delete everything and start a whole new email account and never ever go back to the last one. My old email addresses are like bars I've been kicked out of and can never return to. It's a ridiculous asshole-ish system, but I found that it works for me and I've never received a single complaint. Victor says that because it's impossible to receive a complaint on an account, I never check again. But I suspect it's because everyone is equally behind and they appreciate my honesty. My job is to write ridiculous things on my blog, in books, or on used napkins that get misplaced almost immediately. It's part of my job to be aware of the latest hedgehog in a bathtub video. It's research. There's also a lot of behind the scenes to work that non right brain people don't see happening. For example, when I have a writer's block, I sometimes have to refill my creative cup. This is an actual phrase my shrink has used, and I made her write it down so I could show Victor that I had a doctor's note explaining my behavior. In parentheses. But I lost the note in my stacks of used napkins and relayed flotsam, so he had to just take my word for it, which he did not because he is sadly untrusting. Refilling your creative cup means different things to different people, but to me it looks a lot like watching Doctor Who marathons on or reading David Sedaris books while screaming, "Why do you make it look so easy?" Sometimes it looks like driving to a pet store, so I can pull out all the ferrets from their bins and drape them over me to make it into tickly freaked out coats. Occasionally it looks like me drawing doodles of penises on the overdue tax forms Victor has passively aggressively taped on my computer monitor. I don't know if this is getting weird or what. In summation, I spend an impressive amount of time doing absolutely nothing, like I'm at pro level, because that's how artistic genius works, and because I'm very, very lazy. Now, some people will say that if you have writer's block, you should start writing anyway, because then you will at least accomplish something. However, I never liked anything. I've never been forced to write, so I'm pretty sure all the accomplishments is a bunch of shitty writing, and I already have enough of that when real inspiration hits. Good writing cannot be forced. This is why you don't have a classic beloved This is why you don't have any classic beloved books filled with begrudging and angry mandatory essays, students who didn't want to write them, and why you almost never see college dissertations, dissertations, go viral on Reddit. In other words, if you spent most of the morning reading Twitter and then scribbling weird, indecipherable notes to yourself on your arm, then you are probably on the right track to becoming a successful artist or to being homeless. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. You'd think after 18 years of marriage, Victor and I would be more accepting of each other's work styles, but no. Victor spent most of his morning directing several conference calls, yelling at plumbers, and rolling over 401ks into something that sounded even more boring than 401ks. I stopped listening at that point. I, on the other hand, spent most of the morning coming with good names for cats that I don't currently have. My favorite is the President. It's an awesome name because you constantly find yourself saying things like, the President will not stop sitting on my keyboard, or the President just threw up on the new rug, or I like sleeping with the President, but why do I always wake up with his butt in my face? I tried to tell Victor about how awesome the President would be in bed on a cold night, and he was like, no more cats. You have too many cats already. But then I just stared at him and said, too bad, overruled. You can't turn down a request from the President. He disagreed, but I'm pretty sure that's considered treason. I called the pet store where I snuggled the ferrets to ask if they had any leads on patriotic-looking cats who need a new home. But they recognized my voice and informed me that the manager had just enacted a policy of only one loose ferret at a time. And that's ridiculous because the most you can possibly make a single ferret is a small pillbox hat, which uses claws instead of bobby pins. I was a little upset, and I may have said, that is outrageous. The President will not stand for these kinds of cuts. And then they asked what I was talking about, and I considered explaining that ferret cuts were much worse than government budget cuts, because everyone suffers when you cut ferrets, especially ferrets. But when I remembered that I hadn't adopted the President yet, and I thought it might be inappropriate to show around the weight of my non-existent cat all willy-nilly, Victor agreed that it was extremely inappropriate, although not for the same reasons. I told Victor that not having a cat named the President had already crippled me once today, and that the President would probably get in all kinds of crazy shenanigans that I could write about. I argued that my buying the President was basically the equivalent of his buying of Feist supplies, so it was fiscally irresponsible to not adopt a cat called the President. At this point, Victor may have screamed, you cannot have any more cats. I'm the one that has to clean up after them. And I'll be damned if I'm going to scoop the President's shit too. He paused and shook his head and his own questionable phrasing, but I smiled contentedly because he'd just proven my point. as that was exactly the kind of argument that would be gold on my blog. In fact, the president has already given me 4 paragraphs in this book, and he doesn't even exist yet. It's possible he might be the most productive president we've ever had. Victor walked away before he could finish discussing the issue, so I wrote myself a reminder on the tax forms he taped to my monitor. Get a litter box for the president. I suspected the IRS would be confused, and possibly not in a good way, so I added, I'm not referring to your loss. I totally voted for that guy. Please don't audit me. I'm kind to animals and small children. If anything, you should audit my husband, who thinks the president should just live in a cage rather than get adopted by my daughter, who would totally dress him up in old Cabbage Patch Kid clothes and snuggle him like crazy cakes. Then Victor came back in, saw the now vandalized tax papers, and just stared at me in disappointment. I explained it would probably be better if he just did all my tax papers in the future. He claimed that would be illegal, and I told him that if the president were here, he'd be just fine with that and with it, and that's basically the same as getting presidential approval on everything. Cats don't give a shit about stuff, so basically the president would automatically approve of everything we did by default, except for maybe Victor's use of the super soaker to keep the cats off the kitchen counters. The president would probably not approve of that. Case in point, just this moment, Victor walked in and asked that what I was doing, and I told him writing about how much he hates the president, and he started yelling at me about using my time more wisely. Frankly, it's not even that we disagree about my use of time. It's more about how completely far we are from agreeing about what would be a credible use of my time. Actual things Victor has suggested I should do in my spare time. Semicolon. Idea number 1, open an art gallery. Idea number 2, open a comic book store. Idea 3, open a restaurant. Idea 4, anything that doesn't involve ferrets. Actual things I'd considered doing in my spare time. Semicolon. Idea 1, start a club for small monkeys. Set them up with people who like to have their hair laid out. Note, there might be some technical problems because technically monkeys only pick out bugs in hair, and some people might be weird about getting insects dumped into their hair, but people who'd pay to have monkeys play with their hair are not entirely predictable. So it could still work. Or maybe we just dump edible glitter in people's hair. That's where we'd make our money, selling edible monkey glitter. Is it just me? I'm going to stop there for a minute. Is it just me, or did this just get kind of really weird? I think we're kind of going off the rails here, but anyway, continuing on. I don't know how monkeys are with edible glitter, but it's got to be the step up from their current diet. I mean, you eat bugs. Monkeys, stop being so goddamn pretentious. Also, I have a real life model based on this let me start over. Also, I have a real life model to base this on because my dad's friend has a pet monkey, Amber, who likes to pick off scabs on people's scalps. So we call her Amber the Scalp Monkey, which is a terrible name. Who names a monkey Amber? Total waste of a monkey. Also, I'm not sure many people have scabs on their heads, but I suspect if you're letting monkeys dig around in your hair, you would end up with scabs. This builds business itself. Idea number 2, adopt a stray cat and name it the president. Set it up with a Twitter account. Sell pardons from my cat that you can buy for whatever you forget, your wife's birthday, or when you actually let too many ferrets loose in the store. Like, I know you're still mad at me, but I do have a pardon from the president. That's got to count for something. Idea 3, watch videos of goats doing funny things. In the end, Victor and I both want the same thing, for me to get my shit together. That's where we find common ground. And when Victor starts up again about opening an art gallery that sells comics or crepes, I respond with the variation of what I always say. It's a very good idea, Victor, but right now I'm just too involved with writing and catching up with TV developing edible monkey glitter, the president. But maybe in my next life, I'll do it. And it could be true. Maybe in my next life, I will open a successful business and buy and sell stocks and memorize my driver's license number and do my taxes on my time. Or maybe in my life, I'll open a deli that specializes in mashed potato sandwiches, mashed potatoes and tater tots stuffed inside warm potato bread, and spaghetti pies. No definition needed. And I'll have a big sign saying, "The president eats here." And he does, because cats fucking love spaghetti. And at least Victor won't be mad at me in my next life. Unless, that is, in his next life, he comes back as a customer. Then he'll shake his head a little confusingly as he steers his third wife away from the cat on the counter eating a spaghetti pie. But I bet Victor'll turn back. That's actually a thing. Victor'll. Victor''. Victor will turn back once more to see a very happy woman handing a potato sandwich to her glittery monkey waiter, and I imagine he'll feel a small pang of regret and sadness, probably because he'll never know what potato sandwiches are fucking delicious. P.S. Victor just read this, and he agreed that mashed potato sandwiches are delicious, but stated that he'd more likely be looking back to see a woman covered in stolen ferrets getting arrested for not handing in her taxes on time because none of her glitter eating monkeys loved her enough to make her do her required paperwork. I really hate it when he's right. That was a very odd chapter, kind of a tongue twister for myself. Um, Chapter 10 coming up very shortly. I've got a lot of time the next week. Got some things changing in my life. I hope you guys have enjoyed this close to 20 minutes of a chapter. Again, I'm no professional book reader, narrator, motivational speaker, or speaker in general. I'm just me. I suffer with a little bit of mental health, anxiety, and depression. I take some medication to curb a little bit of anger that I have. But the hikes, if you guys watch the hiking videos, you see that I deal pretty exclusively every week with my mental health and keeping it in check by going out on a hiking trail, uh, being out in nature by camping, relaxing, having a drink or two, eating some food over the fire, making some nice hot coffee, something. I just want you guys to know that if you have subscribed to my channel, I really, really appreciate you. I did some research this past week. My channel has about just over 78% of people that are not, in fact, subscribed. And I think it said 30 to 40 some people that were subscribed actually watch my videos. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, you made it this far, please consider subscribing. I mean, I'm going to show up in your feed anyway. I'd greatly appreciate it. I just like sharing what I do. I like being out on a trail and showing you what my area has to offer if you're coming through on vacation. I am not claiming to ever be an educator. I am not claiming to be a licensed therapist of any kind. Um, Although I do not, excuse me, talk too much about mental health. I show you what I do from my personal mental health. I try to entertain you a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. Thanks for listening today. I do appreciate you, and sorry about this tongue twister of a chapter. The next one I looked ahead is shorter, and hopefully I will get these chapters up quicker, so you guys can not get lost in translation. But please go back, listen to the other chapters, and catch up, or just go out and grab the book. I think I bought this book for 10 to 15 bucks on Amazon, and it was recommended to me by my friend Amanda. I've known Amanda since, oh man, back in school. She dated my brother at one point. She is now married with two kids, and it's awesome to see people flourish. Amanda, if you're listening, thanks for recommending this book. I appreciate you, and it was good to see you the other night. And again, you have not changed literally since I last seen you in high school. But everybody, as always, please stay safe, stay healthy, and y'all be good to each other. And I'll see you next time.